Good morning, everybody, for anybody that is in right now. Warm welcome to people that are now just joining us for what is probably our 8th webinar now over the period of sort of lockdown and sort of now coming through into what might now start to resemble a bit more normality for people with, sort of restrictions easing and what have you. And certainly from a professional point of view, you know, some workplaces reopening. So just buying myself a little bit of time. So we've got probably 70, 80 odd people that I think are registered on today. So yeah, warm welcome to those that have just joined. I'll give you a bit of an intro in terms of us and the sort of backstory as to why we're doing these things. And then I will hand you over when we've got good numbers in over to Shaun to sort of take care of the good, interesting content, and I'll be quiet. So just having some discussion with Simran, our marketing manager, and also Shaun just before we started. We started these. The first one was probably about 8 weeks ago, I reckon, with Shaun. His hair seems to have stayed at a fairly nice, sensible, groomed level. So clearly lives with a hairdresser. I'm having to now resort to tucking mine behind my ears. And we were just discussing whether it's a top knot or an Alice band. So if you'd like to vote, please feel free. Moving on to things. So we are the One Group. I'm Mark Kent. I head up commercial for the business. Of course, we've been through lots of change over the last sort of few months, like everybody. But we've been conducting a series of webinars and have been really lucky to be partnering up with people like Shaun and other stakeholders that have been putting some really interesting content together around certain topics. So today we're going to be talking about engagement of a workforce. So it's probably more pertinent and important now than it ever has been. You know, we're certainly working in a very different landscape. We've got certain people that are working remotely. Some of our teams might even be starting to come back into offices. Yeah, we've certainly taken a transition and done a soft opening of our office locations, albeit with probably just 5 people in each of them, and reduced down from about 30 in each that we could hold. So yeah, very, very different, but we need to be able to engage with our workforce and have a degree and understand how we're going to do that from the flexibility that people are going to be working towards now as well. So this is really, really important topic. And really looking forward to some of the stuff that Shaun has put together. So to give you a little bit of background on Shaun. So Shaun's partnered with us now for a good sort of couple of years and covered lots of engagement and motivational sort of topics around teams and how to get the most out of people through coaching and leadership sort of methods. So Shaun's got a great pedigree of working with some really fantastic household brands and names out there in the market. So his experience level is really vast, but he can really offer here something that's going to help, I think, from a point of view now that's real and live to what we're all experiencing. So just checking, Shaun, you there? It seems to have stammered a little bit. Just you can hear me. Just
I am indeed.
Okay.
You frozen, but I still look all right on my screen. So I'm hoping you can you can see me okay, and you can hear me okay.
Yeah, no, I can do. Yeah, so that's the most important thing. You're the most important person here. So to make sure that it all works and is seamless. So what we'll do, there is a chat function here. Could people please interact on here? This is where we're asking for. So if you're having some technical issues here and it's not working, please let us know that up front. More than happy then for us to make some amendments and for us to action things. But also, I guess importantly, to interact with some of the content, Shaun will be asking the audience, so you guys, and welcome those that have just joined, some questions throughout. So if you can interact through the chat room, it will give us a good opportunity to understand what's going on and what is challenges that need answering right now. So we've now got a few more in the room. So again, just in terms of a bit of housekeeping, we've got everybody on mute, and don't worry, we won't be seeing you either, so your videos will be off. So yeah, we won't be seeing you in your pajamas, although I seem to still be wearing my pajama top today, even though I did come to the office. So we've now got 20 odd people. So I'm going to hand you over to Shaun. Shaun can sort of get going and give a bit more of an intro. We will also be putting out some feedback at the end of this, so for you guys to sort of interact with that and tell us how it's been and if there's any other topics that you want to hear. But I'll hand you over to Shaun, mute and get rid of my video. So Shaun, over to you, and good luck. I'm sure it'll go very well.
Thank you, Mark. Cheers. Thank you very much. And welcome, everyone. So we're talking motivation and engagement this morning. Welcome to the Inspire Ignite HQ. So I've had a little bit of a change around because it feels like this whole Zoom, webinar, virtual learning, virtual training thing is going to continue for quite a bit longer. So yeah, I've literally got my desk with a little table on top of it to elevate it, because I thought, you know what, I'm sick of sitting down, so I need to stand up. So I'm delivering this session standing up. So if I take a tumble, you're going to have to bear with me. Or if the whole contraption collapses, I think it's fairly healthy and safe. But if the whole contraption collapses, you're going to have to bear with me on that as well. But yeah, as Mark said, I've been working with the One Group as a bit of a partnership for some of these learning and development sessions and webinars for a little while now. Most of my time is working with individuals on a one-to-one coaching level, but also working with teams, businesses, usually out there in the field, in their place of work, doing face-to-face training on leadership development, team development, personal skills development. So a real mix of topics, themes, and areas that I cover as part of my business Inspire Ignite. So we've got an hour together, so I'm going to try my best to stick to the hour. But we are talking about motivation and engagement. So I've got a few slides to share with you. I'll project those and share those with you in a second. But in effect, I do want a little bit of audience participation. So as Mark said, in the chat window, I'm going to leave my chat window up in the top right. If I need to close it down temporarily to kind of talk you through the slides, I'll do that, but I'll make sure that I check into that chat window regularly. So feel free to throw anything into that chat window that comes up as you go along, as we start to talk. And I'm also going to be throwing out a few questions to you guys as well as we go through at certain points. So I'll be able to check in who's paying attention based on who responds in the chat window. So nothing too complex, nothing too detailed, probably just some one-word answers, because I'm interested to get your thoughts, get your thinking, and get your ideas. So I am going to attempt to share my screen with you. So I am hoping any minute now that should come up. So yeah, hopefully you can all see that fairly clearly. We're off to a good start if you can. So motivation engagement. So we're talking about motivation. We're talking about how it aligns and how it links to engagement. And why should we be thinking about it? Why should we be bothering with it right now? Well, in the world that we're in, there's quite a lot going on, isn't there? And it's super interesting because there's a lot of research out there on motivation, engagement, a lot of different models that are, dare I say, fairly old school in their thinking, probably written in the 50s, 60s, maybe some of them in the 70s. So actually, we've got to work to bring it a little bit more up to date. So we're going to do that, and we're going to try and just set the scene so to give you something to think about that is a little bit more up to date. But I will take you through just a couple of those models and concepts that you might recognise a little bit as well. And it's also really interesting because there's some really recent research out there that actually tells us that a lot of companies, their engagement levels have dramatically gone up based on what's been happening in the world that we're in at the moment. So I really think, and from working with some of the businesses that I've been working with over recent weeks, I really feel that this has been a great opportunity for the good businesses to show that actually I really care about my people, I care about their welfare, and I'm going to do a great job in supporting them in whatever they need as we go through the challenges that we're going through. I've also heard of some people in different businesses that have said, do you know what, this has just been handled really, really terribly. I don't want to stay for a company that doesn't get it, that doesn't care about me as an individual and hasn't managed this well. So it feels really interesting that landscape has changed based on what we've been experiencing and what we've been working through over recent months. So I guess kind of to nail a little bit and to talk you through a little bit what I wanted to explore with you today. We've only got an hour. We're going to keep it really slick and really simple. I wanted to talk to you about some of the principles of motivation, engagement, and why they matter in a business generally, and probably right now too. I want to talk to you about the benefits of taking a leadership approach. This is not just about employee engagement surveys, questionnaires that we send out because we think it's the right thing to do. We don't always like the responses that we get back, so we do nothing with them. So sometimes we almost create more of a challenge and more of a lack of engagement because we ask people for their views, they feed back to us, and we do nothing with it. So actually, engagement and measuring engagement and building employee engagement is far from just being about surveys and questionnaires. What I want to do towards the end is just introduce you to a really simple framework to prompt some good quality engagement discussions, encourage a little bit of employee voice. So if we're not doing those questionnaires or we're not doing those engagement surveys, actually we can still make sure that the employees that are part of our team, part of our business, feel like their views, their thoughts and their opinions can actually really genuinely be contributed to the way the business is going and the way that teams work going forward as well. So 3 areas that we'll dip into and we'll start to explore a little bit as we go through the course of the session. So why does it matter? Why are we here talking about motivation and engagement, and why have you guys all dialed into this? Well, I'm kind of guessing there is an interest there because organisations with highly engaged employees, we know they're more efficient and they're more effective. All of the research on employee engagement replicates that, justifies that. We know that organisations with highly engaged employees are more focused on the customer, more creative at work, and take less time off sick. There's lots of data and lots of information that goes behind that. And they have people that care about the future of the business, and they're far more likely to put more effort into helping the business to meet its goals and its objectives. And probably, I think, what is becoming the most important one, particularly right now in the environment that we're in, we've got people that are really proud of the organisation that they work for. They feel inspired that they're going to do their best and they can do their best. And this last bit, motivated to actively promote working there. So I'm sure there's some of you on the call that are based in HR, working in HR, maybe recruitment. Actually, from an employer brand perspective, high levels of employee engagement are probably the ace card that will get you new talent in the door in the future that's going to continue to enable you to do a good job or up your level of performance based on where you're at the moment. It's also a bit of an awareness here that the world of work is really changing quite rapidly. Population's aging, new generations are entering the workforce. Obviously, we're in the middle of a global pandemic as well, which kind of has a little bit of an impact, a little bit of an effect. So actually, as employers, as businesses, as leaders, we've got to start thinking about how we evolve, how we develop, how we think differently to evolve and attract, retain, keep a really good, strong, talented workforce as well. So it's about thinking about, are you offering what some of those new generations might want, or are you stuck in the past for what maybe your aging population is liking or is needing or is feeling is important? Are you thinking about the profits and the process of focusing a bit more on the management side of things and maybe not so much on the people? So it's a bit more management process focused than it is about engaging the hearts and minds of people. What happens when the workforce that you've got at the moment maybe retires, maybe changes, maybe tweaks? What happens when those people go elsewhere and actually you're left with a very different workforce with very different needs? Actually, if you haven't flexed, if you haven't adapted, your engagement, no matter how high it is right now, is going to considerably drop because you haven't flexed your style and your approach based on what that new population needs. So this, I guess this theme and this summary comes from Engaging for Success. So if anybody wants to do any additional research or any additional thinking or investigation around employee engagement, I would absolutely recommend that you go on the Engaging for Success website. Up to date, fresh thinking. It's not your old school models and theories. It's up to date stuff, and we'll explore some of that stuff as we go through the rest of this little session as well. But absolutely recommend Engaging for Success. for up-to-date stats research, thinking factors that affect employee motivation and engagement. So actually it does matter. Some of you are probably going to be a little bit further forward than others. Some of you, actually, this might be a bit of a new journey for you. So, hope you're all poised with your fingers over the chat window. I'm really interested in your thinking and your ideas. So, in that chat window, could you capture for me who you think does motivation and engagement really, really well? What are the teams? What are the businesses? Who comes to mind when you think about teams and businesses that have a really high level of motivation and engagement? So I'll give you a couple of minutes to have a little think, have a little reflect, and then if you can capture those in the chat window for me, that would be fantastic. Yeah, Joe Jurgen Klopp. Okay, so really good at developing employee engagement or team engagement. Emma, thanks Emma. Google, Lush Cosmetics. Okay, they've not come up before. I don't know if you used to work for them or you know people that work for them. Michael, Sir Alex, I guess you mean Sir Alex Ferguson. I don't know any other Sir Alexes, so I guess that's who you mean. Fiona, thanks. Pixar, okay, yeah, quite a creative industry, quite a creative business that they're in and they're based in. Yeah, absolutely agree. Thanks, Sonia. Facebook, Boots. You put in brackets there appear to have, so yeah, maybe that's the perception that's painted, what people think of when they think of Boots. Laura, John Lewis. Don't know where you're from, Laura, but I'm based in Peterborough. So John Lewis is kind of got a bit of a really positive reputation around here locally, particularly. Disney, yeah, another creative environment. Thanks, Karen. Any more? Any more? David, Perkbox, not come across them before. Clearly, you've had some good positive experiences with them. Good. Thanks for that. Thanks for throwing those into the mix. So I'd kind of captured a few as well. Oh yeah, Laura, name check, who you work for. Good shout there. Coloplast, yeah, hear good things about them locally. Really good positive employer brand and reputation as well, certainly locally to the Peterborough area. So who had I kind of pre-prepared on this slide? Well, Virgin, we hear a lot about Virgin, their culture, their working style, how engaged their employees feel when they are going to work and attempting to do a great job. I've also put something sporty in there as well. I know a couple of you mentioned some sporty references. All Blacks, actually, you've got to be pretty committed and pretty engaged to be able to perform at the level that they do. Visibly demonstrate the commitment that they demonstrate in the run-up to the matches that they play, and also while they're physically on the pitch doing what they need to do. I'd got John Lewis there, consistently seen as a great reputation. We've got the likes of Google, bean bags in the breakout rooms, sleep pods is what I hear as well from people that work at Google. So yeah, really good at thinking particularly about those new generations that are coming through into the workplace. Coventry Building Society. So Coventry Building Society traditionally, probably over the last few years, has consistently featured in the Sunday Times top 100 best companies. So great thing to have a little look at. There's some good case studies. If you look at the Sunday Times 100 best companies, you can filter by a large, small, medium, all businesses put together and get some really good case studies of what different businesses and different types of businesses are doing to up their levels of employee engagement and make it a great place to work. So brilliant, you've thrown out some great examples. I've done a few just to prepare as well. The flip side of that, maybe who do we think of who's been in the news certainly of late around maybe not quite so good high levels of employee engagement? I'd put good old Sports Direct, and I'd also put Wetherspoons there as well. So based on what we're hearing from people that work in those organisations, maybe they haven't handled this situation quite as positively. that's dropped levels of employee engagement that maybe wasn't particularly high in the first place. We think about, you know, historical stuff around 0 hours contracts, welfare, well-being. These businesses, and I always put a bit of a caveat on it, I've never worked in either of those businesses, so we're kind of going off the vibe that we get, what we hear from employees, and the picture that's kind of painted for us, but we can kind of get that sense of, you know, who does it well and maybe who doesn't do it quite so well. So obviously the aspiration is to try and stay on the left-hand side rather than veer towards the right-hand side there as well. Sonia, you've put Amazon. I'm thinking that might be when I asked the question about maybe who doesn't do it well. Is that where you were thinking? Because I hear mixed things about Amazon. Some people say, yeah, that was your thinking. I hear mixed things around actually positive place, and also some people that say a little bit of a challenging place as well. So it might be interesting when we maybe think about that as an example a little bit further down the line when we look at the different kind of types of engagement and stages of engagement as well too. Thanks, Sonia. So interestingly, Glassdoor 2016, more than a quarter of employees are potentially thought to be a high flight risk. So in effect, they're at a high risk of turnover, okay? So sometimes that's a all right thing, because sometimes we're naturally losing people through retirement or natural attrition. Some people, those people maybe aren't necessarily our best performers, so we're quite comfortable that they're maybe going through a process to kind of move on or move forward. But interestingly, and where this starts to align really nicely to engagement, is 1/3, potentially 1/3 of those are talented, motivated employees who exceed performance expectations. So think about it. They're the people that probably are the future of the business. They're the people that are probably the backbone of the business. They're the people that are coming in and consistently doing a great job because their personal levels of motivation really drive the business forward and help it to perform at the level that it performs at or needs to perform at. So actually, we're really starting to dig into the detail here around engagement is really about making sure we keep and we retain all of those great performers. It's also about maybe thinking about how we manage some of those tough conversations, difficult levels of feedback, maybe people that just don't fit within the business. Actually, that's kind of getting us to try and think about the flip side of that. Actually, they could potentially be bringing our employee engagement levels down quite considerably. Bit of mood hoovering maybe going on with some of those people there too. Yeah. Okay, so I'm not a massive theories and model fan, but actually I'm going to give you a couple, and I'm sure some of you that are a little bit more experienced in the environments that you work in will probably have seen some of these before. We've got Hertzberg's model of motivation, really quite recognised in the world of leadership and management. He said there are 2 factors that impact employee motivation and therefore engagement. There's job dissatisfaction is our first thing to think about, and job dissatisfaction is influenced by hygiene factors. So the fundamental basics that actually we're all looking for in some way, shape or form to be reasonable, to make going to work worthwhile for us. So working conditions, co-working relationships, policies and rules, supervisor quality, base wage or salary. So if I come to work and I've got a crap line manager and I haven't got the monthly income coming in to pay my mortgage and pay all my bills and have a little bit of spending money at the same time as well for the stuff that I want and I need, probably my job dissatisfaction is going to be quite high. Yeah, haven't got the fundamental basics in place, let alone any of the nice to have stuff, that's going to actively lead to job dissatisfaction. So Hertzberg said, if we improve those hygiene factors that we have within our business, we are going to decrease the risk of people feeling dissatisfied with their job. Okay? Flip side of that, right hand side, he said there's also some stuff that is around job satisfaction. So these are the motivator factors. This is the stuff that makes a real difference. And this is a lot of the positive stuff that particularly we hear about and we come across in lots of other development opportunities and options. So achievement, recognition, a sense of responsibility, maybe a bit of ownership and accountability for our people when they're working as well. The work itself, so actually people genuinely feel like the work that they're doing makes a difference, appeals to them, they enjoy it, and opportunity to advance and progress, and also a bit of training and a bit of learning and development there, personal growth and personal development. I feel like I'm developing as an individual while I'm here. So Hertzberg said, if we can improve the motivator factors, not only are we going to decrease job satisfaction if we're doing all the other stuff right, but we are actively going to increase job satisfaction. So actually, it's a little bit of a balancing act. And I work with quite a few businesses, and I have worked with quite a few businesses that have said, we've got to do more on recognition. We've got to have a talent management strategy in place. We've got to have career plans in place. And it's really interesting because when you dig into the detail, they haven't got some of those fundamental basics in place first to get the benefit from those motivator factors. So, it's great. Keep doing it. Don't lose sight of those things that are going to actively motivate, but don't just focus on that side without taking into account how good are we at those hygiene factors, getting the working conditions right. It could be that actually if we create a nice open plan working environment, a little bit modern, nice slick white gloss desks, actually hygiene factors go up, everyone loves the working conditions. Brilliant. You've probably nailed a more active part of the population than just focusing on talent development that might only be for certain parts of the business. So hopefully that kind of two-factor principle will become a little bit clearer when we align it to something a little bit later on as well. Yeah? So Hertzberg model of motivation, we've got to improve the motivator factors, we've got to improve the hygiene factors. That's going to increase job satisfaction, and we've got to improve hygiene factors because that's actually going to decrease how people feel about being dissatisfied with their jobs and with their roles. Yeah. So that is good old Hertzberg. So if you think about the Sports Direct and the Wetherspoon examples, some of the stuff that we've heard and some of the stuff that we hear from employees that work there is working conditions, policies and rules are maybe a little bit dubious or aren't in place. We've heard scenarios about people that have been furloughed and then asked to do like a few little bits of work, maybe policies and rules, maybe not the best standards of supervisor, quality, leadership and management. We start to tap into some of those things that might actively lead to job satisfaction. When we think about Virgin and the All Blacks, probably some of those key areas that we think about are more the motivator factors, more the positive side of things. So not only have they got the hygiene factors right, they're also actively focusing on some of the motivator factors as well. I have done work with Virgin in the past, really, really strong at the whole advancement, personal growth, training, learning and development, talent management, all of that great stuff. They have high levels of engagement because not only do they do that, they've got the basic hygiene factors right in place as well. Yeah. I'm sure many of you will have come across Maslow's hierarchy of needs before, so I'm not going to go into shed loads of detail, but the concept and the principle of the pyramid is probably going to help us when we go a little bit further down the line, a couple of slides forward, in our thinking about motivation and engagement right now and going forward. So Maslow said, we've all got some basic needs. So actually food, water, sleep, safety, security, actually we're going to struggle to function if we don't have those basic needs met and in place. Once we've got those basic needs in place, we've got to start to think about how we meet our psychological needs, relationships, friendships, building rapport, having a network of people around us, feelings of accomplishment. Basic needs lead to psychological needs being met. And what he also said was that the top of the pyramid, if you like, the peak of where we should be aspiring to get to, or where we could potentially be getting to, is self-actualization. So true self-fulfillment needs being met, achieving your full potential, creative activities, opportunity to try new things, opportunities to do our absolute best work and feel like we're genuinely making a difference in everything that we do, that's when we really reach the tip of the pyramid, if you like. But we've also got to make sure that we meet those basic levels as well. So when you think about it in that context, very similar to Hertzberg, we've got to meet the fundamental basics before we can do all the nice to have stuff and the funky stuff as well. So kind of projecting up the pyramid as we go, yeah? So where engagement starts to link to the motivation piece, well, engagement measures how motivated people are. So just like in those two previous models, in a workplace context, in an organizational environment, engagement measures motivation. So this gives us a good indicator when we do some of those questionnaires and some of those surveys that maybe we get results that we don't like, or maybe we get results that we're really happy with. That gives us a real genuine sense of where we're at in relation to how motivated people are going to be who work for us or who work in our business to do a great job. So great quote here, your work is going to fill a large part of your life. The only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work, and the only way to do great work is to do what you love. So good old Steve Jobs, you can always rely on Steve Jobs for a cracking quote. So actually when he was talking about engagement, do you know what? We need people that are passionate. We need people who are passionate about what we do, innovation, the products that we're developing, the services that we're offering, because if we can get that connection and we can get those high levels of satisfaction, we are probably going to have people that are more motivated to want to do a great job proactively now and in the future. And that therefore means we are going to have a workforce that is highly engaged to contribute and do all that stuff. So if we want to measure it at any point, we're really comfortable and we're really confident that we've got the fundamentals in place. Yeah. So I'm even going to have to move the chat window. There's so many words on this slide. So this is also from that Engage for Success website. So again, you've got some good tools and some good techniques and some good definitions on there as well. They define engagement as a workplace approach resulting in the right conditions for all members of an organisation to give their best each day, committed to their organisation's goals and values, motivated to contribute to organisational success, as well as thinking about that enhanced sense of their own well-being as well. And then again, there's so many words, I'm going to have to move the chat window to the other side. Employee engagement based on trust, integrity, two-way commitment and communication between an organisation and its members. An approach that increases the chances of business success, contributes to organisational and individual performance, productivity and well-being. It can be measured, varies from poor to great. There's a bit of a sliding scale here that we'll look at in a second. It can be nurtured and dramatically increased. It can also be lost and thrown away. So again, particularly when we think about what's going on right now at the moment, I've had a couple of people who have said to me, do you know what? I'm just not feeling working where I work anymore because it hasn't been handled well and positively. Yeah. And so actually, I mean, you've got to love a long, laborious, detailed definition, haven't you? I always think of engagement, and this may be useful for you. How up for it are your people? Are your people kind of sat there doing what they need to do on a day-to-day basis, doing the fundamental basics? Okay, you got some people that are doing a good job, an all right job, not particularly motivated, engaged, up for it, passionate and making a difference. That's where you start to see some benefits when you get some of that population that are genuinely up for it. You're probably also going to get those people that are the other end of the scale and are what we would call actively disengaged. So not only are they not coming in and doing a reasonably good, okay job, do you know what? They're not up for it in any way, shape or form. Their head is out the door. They're thinking about future opportunities, what's next. They're thinking about leaving the business, not up for it in any way, shape or form. So I always think about engagement when I talk to clients about it. this is about getting a sense of and a vibe for how up for it are the people that work in your business and in your organization. Yeah. So it's about creating conditions. Employees are going to offer more, want to do more, want to feel more up for it. If I genuinely am up for it, I'm happy to kind of flex and adapt my approach and my style to help the business to achieve what it needs to achieve as well. So I always say, how up for it are your people? Are they keen, and are they engaged, and are they motivated? So another little question for you guys. So again, get yourselves poised with your fingers over the chat window. I'm interested in your thinking. So there might be some examples that you do in your business. There might be some stuff that naturally comes to mind when you think about the businesses that we've referenced that do it well, or maybe don't do it so well. I'm interested, what factors do you think drive high levels of motivation and engagement in a team or in a business? So there's your question to have a little think about, have a little reflect, and then when you're ready, pop it in the chat window for me, and I'll shout a couple out. Thanks, Kirsty. Recognition and culture, absolutely. Fiona, some of those social factors, enjoying each other, yeah, nice working environment, collaborative working environment, sharing the journey. Joe, yeah, line manager makes a difference, doesn't it? Genuinely caring about their people and their team. Nicole, work-life balance, absolutely. Great communication between managers and employees, yeah, definitely. Meaningful work, yeah, the stuff that actually I feel makes a difference, taps into my skills and my knowledge and my expertise. Mutual respect, strong culture. Social events, flexibility and positive energy. Oh, we're flying here, look at this. Yeah, Laura, development plans. So I can see where I'm going and where I want to develop going forward. Yeah, people seems to be coming up quite a lot, almost this genuine connection, these genuine relationships with the people that we work with and we work around. Brilliant. Any more to come in? Yeah, company culture. And it's interesting, isn't it? We talk about company culture, and sometimes that's around understanding the why. You know, there's a lot of research there around understanding the why and getting to grips with the why. Actually, for people to be able to make those calls as to if they're engaged or not, I've got to understand what the mission, the vision, the aims of this business are, what values they live by, because that's when I can make the call as to if I feel engaged with that vision and that mission and those values, or if, do you know what, this just doesn't quite feel right. So yeah, being responsible and supportive when mistakes are made, yeah. So and maybe encouraging some of those mistakes. So, you know, it's part of the continuous improvement process. Level of job security, yeah, for some people that's really important. Thanks, Joe. Being approachable, yeah, everyone, yeah, brilliant, fantastic, good stuff. So yeah, trust. Thanks, Michelle. Absolutely, yeah, definitely. So a lot of factors there that drive high motivation, high levels of engagement, and are potentially going to really make a difference. So again, just to kind of consolidate all of that great stuff and all of that great thinking. McLeod report is something that you can find on the Engage for Success website too. So David McLeod was commissioned to go into shed loads of organisations, talk to shed loads of people, employers, leaders, managers, individuals, and almost try and refresh and really get a sense of how engaged people were in the businesses that they worked for. What traits and characteristics did organisations and leaders and businesses demonstrate that really made high engagement levels, and which were the ones that if they weren't in place, oh my goodness, they kind of felt like it was a real challenge to get to grips with and to build that level of engagement. And that report captured 4 key enablers of engagement, as they were termed. So strategic narrative was number 1. So that piece that I've just described and I've just said there around getting the value, getting the mission, getting the strategic objectives and the goals of the business, understanding where the business is going, understanding the business plan, really helps individual employees to get a sense of if they want to commit and they want to sign up. Yeah, if they do, fantastic, they're part of it. There's a really old, and a lot of you have probably come across it, there's a really old analogy about a stonemason that is kind of cutting rocks, shaping stones, and somebody goes up and asks, what are you doing, what are you doing? He could say, oh, I'm just cutting bricks and shaping stones, but the response that he gave was, I'm helping to build a cathedral. So somebody who really gets that strategic narrative, I get the difference that I make, and I understand that I contribute to the success of the end goal. And if I don't do my bit, the whole thing falls down. So wow, how engaging is that, to feel like you're part of that process of building a cathedral? And if you don't do a great job, if you don't sign up, if you're not up for it, actually it could have a big impact on the end result. So people understanding that strategic narrative was the first report finding. You guys have pulled it out in a few little comments within the chat box there. The second one is engaging managers, and I spent a lot of time with one particular business that I always love working for. In the 4 years that I've had Inspire Ignite, they've been a regular, ongoing source of support for me, which is fantastic. The term that they often reference and the term that they often use is the line manager makes the difference. So actually, that strategic narrative could be there or could not be there. The critical factor for them is all about how the line manager makes the difference, brings that narrative to life, offers great feedback, offers great recognition, coaches the people in their development, all of the great stuff that we can probably tap into and we can probably reference if we were talking about what made a great manager or a great leader. Yeah, they are the people that bring things to life. They're the people that are in contact with the individuals within the business. It's really about making sure you've got strong, engaging managers who demonstrate great leadership to their team members as well. The third factor that was the third enabler that the McLeod report identified was employee voice. So employees and individuals within the business feel like they can contribute, they can feedback, they can honestly and openly share their thinking and their thoughts. And most importantly, when they do that, it isn't just dismissed, it's heard, and they feel like their voice is being heard. So I've done work with a few organisations that have said, oh yeah, we've spent shed loads, and I mean spent shed loads on employee engagement surveys and questionnaires. And I kind of said, oh, brilliant. So what sort of stuff came out? And that they give me the list of all the scores that scored maybe not quite so high, and some of the comments and the feedback as to why that was. And then I'll say to them, so what have you done about those areas? Well, we haven't really had a chance. We've been really busy. There's been quite a lot going on. So actually, it's almost worse that they went out and asked people what their feedback was, what their thinking was, and what their thoughts were, because when people have fed it back, they don't feel like anything has changed. So why are we surprised as businesses when people don't feel they want to contribute their thinking and their voice and their ideas? If, do you know what, there isn't the budget this year for that, or oh, well, nothing's going to change, there's no point filling it in. So what happens? Those engagement levels start to drop. You're asking for my feedback, but actually you're not doing anything with it when I voice my thinking and voice my views and voice my opinions. And then that fourth one, the fourth enabler, is integrity. So doing the right thing, having the values in place, behaving in a way that actually some of that collaborative stuff, working with others that we've identified in that chat window, really getting the feel for actually when I work with other people, I feel like I'm working with like-minded people. Everyone gets it. We might all have different ways of thinking, working, behaving, but there is that integrity in place that we're doing the right thing, we're moving together in the right direction, and we can make it work. Yeah. So again, if you go on to the Engaging for Success website, you'll find those 4 enablers of engagement, and there's a little bit of blurb, a little bit of detail behind each one. that will give you some specific areas to think about if it's something that actually you think some of these factors and some of these enablers could potentially make a difference for you guys in your businesses. Great stuff. Okay, so there is a little bit of research here. There's a few stats here, and this is where kind of it really starts to jump out. And again, we're kind of validating some of that importance. 2019, so fairly recently, before everything happened, American Psychological Association did some studies, did some research, and they likened engagement to being all about people being in the boat. So same boat, different engagement. Some are going to drive it, some are going to jump off it. And I used this slide in something the other day, and somebody said, so in effect, you're asking me who's sinking my effing boat. I thought, well, okay, that's not quite how I described it, but it does kind of make sense. There are going to be people that are actively trying to sink the boat, while others are desperately trying to not only keep it afloat, but keep it moving forward as well. So this particular piece of research said 29% of people in businesses are engaged, 19% actively disengaged, 52% not actively disengaged, but not engaged to the level that will make a real strong and positive difference to the way that people are working. So actually, or the business is working. So they're productive, but they don't necessarily have that true, genuine, real connection. And we're probably not helping them to realise their levels of potential. So I'm just going to move the chat window over so I can see. And here's number 2. So employee engagement. So specifically in the US, 26% are engaged, 29% are not engaged, and wow, 45% of people in businesses could be actively disengaged. So that's from Dale Carnegie Training. So known provider of lots of leadership development, management development, training and development within the US, particularly over here as well, but mainly in the US. 45% are potentially actively disengaged. Think about the impact that will have on your organization if those percentages align to you. Someone that we're going to reference a little bit in a couple of slides and at the end of the session, Gallup, really known for surveys, research, analysis of different markets, different trends. They also do a lot of work on engagement, which we'll talk about in a second. 20% of the global working population are engaged, productive and happy. 60% not engaged, so they're kind of going through the motions and doing what they need to do. They're doing an all right job. 20% actively disengaged, so are actually probably having a detrimental impact on the business. They might be physically sat at their desk, but they're probably actively unhappy. They're probably demotivating other people. They'll probably have a negative impact on other working relationships in other colleagues, different departments, actively sharing that level of dissatisfaction with other people. And interestingly, this is kind of hot off the press. So I tracked this down just last week. Willis Towers Watson, April 2020, literally hot off the press with everything that's going on. 84% of companies believe employee engagement has increased on the back of what we've been experiencing right now. So to me, that kind of indicates actually there's some more appreciation out there. People are seeing a lot of other people being made redundant, companies maybe losing some of the workforce, maybe not handling the challenges that we've had in the best possible way. So actually, people feeling more comfortable, more engaged and more confident that I feel like right now, my business is helping me to do what I need and do a great job. So 84% of companies believe that engagement has really increased. So it will be interesting to see how long that percentage and that positive figure is sustained for as things start to maybe move back towards how they were before all of this happened. So actually, short term, we might have a win there, or a lot of organisations might have a win. It's something we've really got to think about how we maintain that momentum going forward to make sure we can retain those high percentages. Yeah. Okay, brilliant. So a leadership approach. So a lot of people say, oh yeah, we've just done a survey. Yeah, the survey's out. We're doing a pulse check. We've got a full survey happening next year, and literally spend tens of thousands of pounds trying to identify and trying to capture stats, figures and numbers on how engaged their workforce are. And what kind of I always say to them is, really, if you're a good business, if you're a good organization, if you've got good, strong leaders in place, do you know what? These are probably some big opportunities for you. You don't need a survey to have to tell you how engaged your workforce is. So thinking back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, thinking back to Hertzberg's motivation theories, I've just seen, Kirsty, you've put in the comments there, can anyone recommend a good staff survey provider that's cost effective? Actually, yeah, good leaders having good quality conversations for me is probably the most cost effective way of doing this. So Gallup 12, I'm not sure if any of you have come across the Gallup 12 before, but we mentioned Gallup a couple of slides ago. Gallup have spent a heck of a long time studying engagement in businesses and in organisations, and they've identified 12 questions that businesses, leaders need to be facilitating and need to be asking their team members to get a sense of how engaged they are. Most employee engagement questionnaires and surveys are based in some way, shape or form around these 12 questions, because they're kind of recognised for any business or any company that provides employee engagement surveys. They know this is the stuff that gets results and demonstrates good, strong outcomes. So think about Maslow's pyramid. We've got some fundamental basics at the bottom, and we've got, thinking about Hertzberg's model, we've got some really great, strong motivator factors at the top. So we've got to kind of work our way up the pyramid to make sure we're balancing out those fundamental basic hygiene principles, moving towards the good stuff at the top, yeah? So Gallup have come up with a Gallup 12, and I'm more than happy to send you out a bit of a copy and a bit of a template for the Gallup 12. So if you do want to do it as a bit of an informal survey, capture some outputs, capture some results, capture some scores, you can if you want to. Save you a hell of a lot of money on employee engagement surveys, particularly if you're a smaller business and maybe you're pretty nifty on Microsoft Excel. You can do some good stats analysis. But I always say, these are the 12 questions that leaders and managers in your business should be asking and should be facilitating discussion around. So look at the bottom there. There's 2 of the Gallup 12 questions that align to the basic fundamentals. So from Maslow's perspective, it's the basic fundamental needs. From Hertzberg's perspective, it's the foundations of those hygiene factors that we need to get right. So the 2 questions are, I know what's expected of me at work. The second question, I've got the materials and equipment that I need to do my job. Okay, so there is absolutely no point going straight to the top of the pyramid. Oh, everyone needs to have a funky creative development plan and succession plans and development plans if people haven't got the fundamental basic kit and equipment to do what they need to do on the fundamental basics. Yeah. Second section up, so the blue section. So we mentioned the importance of line managers. We mentioned the importance of kind of management support and management opportunities. So there's 4 questions there that actually will give us a good, strong indication for that. So question 3, 4, 5, and 6 in the Gallup 12. I've got the chance and I've got the opportunity to do what I do best every day. Am I motivated by the work that I'm doing? Are they getting the opportunities to explore what I want to explore and fulfill the needs that actually really drive me based on my strengths and my motivators? Have I had recognition in the last 7 days? So actually, if we need an expensive all singing all dancing employee survey for somebody to tell us, no, I haven't had recognition in the last 7 days, the issue isn't employee engagement as the starting point. The issue is the leadership, the management, and the feedback and the conversations that are coming on the back of that. I don't know why you should need a all singing, all dancing questionnaire for line managers to realise they should be giving good levels of recognition. Supervisor, someone at work cares. So I think somebody captured that almost exact sentence in the chat box when I asked the previous question around what makes a difference. If I feel like somebody cares and somebody has a genuine interest in how I'm feeling, what I want, wants to have a conversation with me about, you know, how I feel at a certain point in time, actually I'm far more likely to want to do a great job. Up to question 6 there, someone at work encourages my development. So this is where we start to get into the realms of maybe the nicer to have stuff and some of those things that actively motivate. Somebody is investing them a little bit of time, a little bit of thinking, a little bit of effort in what I want, what works for me, what I could do, and helps me and encourages me to do more. We've got the third section of this particular pyramid, 4 questions. At work, my opinion seem to count. We're back to that employee voice. Question 8, I fundamentally get and can buy into the mission and purpose of the business or the company. Actually, yeah, we've spoken about the importance of people being aware of that. Question 9, I feel like my co-workers are committed to quality as well. I feel like everyone is working towards the same things. I feel like everyone's engaged on the same page. And the question 10 that often prompts a little bit of discussion, I've got a best friend at work. So Gallup have identified that question as being, actually, if we've got somebody that we can confide in, if we've got somebody that we can be really honest with, really honest, it probably helps us to manage some of those more negative responses to situations, some of those more negative emotions that could potentially be shared or broadcast more broadly if I don't have someone that actually I feel I can have those honest and open conversations with. Questions 11 and 12, so this is kind of the tip of the pyramid. It's about the future, it's about how can we grow and develop. Have I had the opportunity to progress in the last 6 months? Question 12, have I had the opportunities to learn and grow, and have I got those currently? Yeah, so facilitating thinking and facilitating questions with your people around those 12 questions. I challenge, if you need an all singing all dancing employee engagement survey that costs a hell of a lot of money, it's about facilitating great quality discussion. It's about leaders and managers getting to know the people within their business, getting a sense for how they're feeling. Not just about a survey, it's about good conversations, facilitating great questioning with team members. Most importantly, it's the listening bit. So it's listening to what they say so they feel like their voice is being heard and is making a difference. And actually, we're working to build great leadership. So, you know, a lot of people come to me and say, oh, can we do a leadership development program? And it's stuff like coaching, recognition, giving feedback, difficult conversations, learning and development, coaching, mentoring. It's all the stuff that is aligned to these 12 questions in these 12 areas that will get you a good sense of how engaged your individuals and how your people are. So yeah, absolutely. I can happy to send out a little bit of a framework for the 12 questions. There's a bit of a scoring mechanism and a bit of a scoring system that goes behind it. So maybe if you want to get some stats and get some ideas, you can start having conversations. You can get your leaders to start having conversations. Also great from a personal perspective as well. By you having a little think about those 12 questions, a little bit of reflection around each one, a little bit of a almost self-analysis, you'll get a sense for how engaged you are in the job that you do and the business that you work in. Yeah. So yeah, I've got a funky little tool that will kind of help some thinking on that. But yeah, for me, quality of leadership, great conversations, great questioning from those leaders to individuals is going to give you all of the information that hopefully you need on the back of an engagement approach. So we've had some models, we've had a few principles, we've had some factors that influence. There's a lot of research out there, so I would absolutely, like I said before, recommend that Engage for Success website. tell you more about the principles of motivation and why it's so important and why it's so critical, particularly right now. Really think about, yeah, we could do a questionnaire, we could do a survey, but actually this is more about great leadership and great conversations and getting our managers to take more of a lead in owning some of those conversations. And really think about that Gallup 12 and some of those core fundamental principles to open up discussion, encourage employee voice, and most importantly, if you're getting stuff back from people, it really is showing that you're listening, showing that you're taking on board what people are saying, and really making sure that their employee voice is heard. Okay. So I guess from my perspective, I hope you found the hour useful. I think we are pretty much dead on an hour, which is fantastic. If you've got any questions, if you've got any queries, feel free to drop them over to me post session if you want to, unless you want to quickly scribble something into the chat box now, you're more than welcome to. I'll make sure you get slides. And also make sure that you get the copies of the Gallup 12, which might be useful and might be beneficial for you going forward. And then, of course, you'll have my contact details if you want to ask me any questions for the future. Okay. So I hope you've enjoyed. I'm going to hand back over to Mark, who is going to do a little bit of a tie up at the end. But thank you so much for joining, and hopefully I'll speak to you soon.
Amazing, Shaun. Thank you. It was really good. Yeah, really valuable. And yeah, I think there's a lot of insight there that people can take where we can actually start to have a look a bit more. And it also took me back to some of my theoretical university days as well, going back to Maslow and Hertzberg's theories. So just wanted to drop it in. I did go to university for those that were a bit cynical. So just a thank you for everybody. I know that's taking up some time. And again, hope you got some value from it. Thanks to Shaun for this and for all the other ones that you put together for us. They've been really good. We want to continue doing these. We've got another one that's actually happening now on the 14th of July. We'll make sure that everybody gets an invitation for this as well. But this is more talking about the psychology that employees are going to be going through when we're considering all of the things that have been going on, bringing people back into an office location, back into work, you know, all the considerations that have been happening. So this is more the psychological impacts that we should be have a bit of empathy towards and understanding. So we'll send out the information to that. That's with Dr. Lindsay Joyce on the 14th. We also are going to send out, as Shaun said, so we'll send out the slides. We will send out as well some feedback. We'll be really interested to know as well some timings, because I'm conscious that some people now are getting busier and busier now that work and it's starting to reopen for some people. So we're interested to sort of find out times of when might be best for these webinars. We've always just done them at 10:30, but if there's a better time, we'd love to know. I guess all of this does lead in quite nicely to people's recruitment strategies as well, so and their EVP strategies, because I think if you've got an engaged workforce, and much like those businesses that were described earlier on, getting that message out to the wider population, I think, is really, really important. There's actually going to be, of course, a lot of effects in the talent pool over the next sort of 6 months. There's going to be potentially some very good people in the marketplace that might not have been in the market before. And I think if your EVP and your employer, your engagement's not out there, you know, this understanding about how good you are at what you do, and how well respected your staff find working there, and how good experience it is. You know, I think thinking about that as well, because there could be opportunities for certain businesses here, I think, to be recruiting as time goes on. And just a very small market update as well. You know, recruitment for us, you know, of course, it dropped off the end of a cliff, you know, come sort of April and then to May. We've actually seen some recovery now. So really interesting. Coming into June, we've now started to see some recovery that's been quite encouraging. And we've also now certainly looking at coming into July. Hopefully that is going to sort of continue and stabilize, if not grow a little further. So it's all really reassuring signs, and that's for everybody out there in the marketplace. I do appreciate it's a challenge for us all, though. So thanks again, Shaun. We'll get the update out to everybody. We will be doing another one with Shaun. We don't quite know what that will be just yet, but we'll wait for some feedback. So if there's certain topics that you would like to hear about, please let us know and we can shape this around you all. So keep safe and well, everybody. And until the next webinar, we'll see you then. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys. Take care.